Today I'm going to talk about size of the Defenders. I get asked this question so many times, and I would say probably 98% of all my customers have never driven a Defender or have never even sat in a Defender. They've seen them in the wild, more or less, whether it's in Cape Cod or wherever, just driving around or sitting in a parking lot. So there's always the concern, will it fit in my garage? And so today I'm going to prove that point, whether or not it will fit in your garage. So of course I have it pulled in front of my garage doors to give you some perspective, but I'm also giving you additional perspective. I have the D90 sitting here, the D110 next with a roof rack and a tent, and then I have a new full-size Range Rover. So you can clearly see the full-size modern-day Range Rover is bigger than the D110 or the D90. And I know it's hard to get that perspective of size when you're looking at pictures on Instagram or seeing one going down the road. So for perspective of size, just look at me standing here by the D90. Does it look like it's a monster standing next to me? It's a little tall, but it's really not that big of a vehicle. So to kind of think about size and perspective of a D90, think about it as a Jeep Wrangler. But I'm going to do measurements today, and you'll be able to go out and measure your garage. And if you're thinking, man, I would love to have a bespoke, custom Defender, but will it fit? And that's what we're going to prove is, yeah, it's probably going to fit unless you have a really tiny garage. So let's start with the height. Will it fit in the garage height-wise? And I'll show you that measurement. So from the ground up to the top of the roll bar, keep in mind, this is an internal roll bar system where it's 76, almost 77 inches tall. So that's going to fit in pretty much any standard garage. So let's do the length now. Is it too long to fit in your garage? But again, Jeep Wrangler, that's really what you have to think here. So let's kind of put this out, and there's going to be a margin of error here. So let's say about right there should be about front of the nudge bar. And if we run it all the way to the end, and I'm going to run it a little farther past to account for the rear tire. So rear tire, we're at about 165 inches total. So measure your garage and figure that out. Would 165 inches fit in the garage? I'd say it's a pretty good chance because again, you see the length of this, the D90 versus the D110 versus a full-size modern-day Range Rover. Another point, D90. Why is it called D90? And that's because that's a measurement from the center of the front hub to the center of the rear hub, 90 inches. So that's why D90 is 90 inches. A D110, center hub to center hub, is actually 129. So we round, sorry, it's not a D130th. So actually it's 110 inches, or technically 109 inches. So that's why it's a D110. D130 is 129 inches, so rounded up to 130. So 130 inches, 110 inches, 90 inches from center of hub to center of hub. Now let's take a look at the width. Is it too wide to fit in your garage? And I really don't think it is, but let's see the measurement. All right, so starting out again with perspective. I'm standing in front of it. Does it look like it really overpowers me, or does it look like it's just a normal size vehicle? I'd say it's pretty normal size, and I do want to point out I did not try to color coordinate my trousers to the Defender. I didn't, but it works. So let's measure it, and we're going to measure it from the edge of the mirror to the edge of the mirror, meaning the outside of the mirror. So if you were to pull it in your garage, would you take the mirrors off? And to measure that out, if we were to do that, we are about 74 inches for edge of mirror to edge of mirror is where it's at. So really just a little over 6 feet wide. Let's say it's 6 foot 2 inches, 6 foot 4 inches at the most is width. So there's the width of the D90, there's the height of the D90 and the length. And let me point out something. What is the difference between a D90 and a D110 when it comes to size? I'm going to measure it. I'm going to give you a roof rack measurement too. But the difference in the size, where you get the additional size in a D110, is all done in the second row. So to explain that a little farther, the cabin where you would sit as a driver and your passenger, you do not have any additional room in a D110 versus a D90. Your front cabin room is the same exact size in both of these, and it's also the same size in a D130. And the cargo area in the very back where you're going to carry your dog, your shotgun, whatever it is, the cargo area is also the same size. If you have the seats up in a D110, it's the same size. It's 3 feet by 4 feet. So same size, and that's in between the wheel wells. So cargo area on both of them is the same. The only place you make up room on a D110 is by having a second row. So you can pull out those second row seats, and then you can have a lot of additional cargo area. So if you want to use one of these vehicles for camping and don't want to do a rooftop tent, you could pull out the second row seats, and it makes a wonderful queen size bed in the back where you can put an air mattress in there. So let's go ahead and do some measurements on the D110 now. So I've got a question for you guys, and I want you to comment if this video is somewhere where you can comment. But does this truck look bigger? In other words, does it look wider than the orange one? Because color can play a really kind of a trick on your mind based on color. So again, I'd love to see your comments on that. Does this one look wider than the orange one? But let's do a measurement and kind of show. So go ahead and put in what you think right now, but let's go ahead and measurement. Again, measuring from side to side, meaning the mirrors. So if we do that, again, we are about 74 to 76 inches, same width. So D90 and D110 is the same width. And again, look at the perspective, me standing in front of it. It's a different color, so it's probably going to look a little different, but size-wise. Height can make a difference, depending on height, and what I mean by that is the type of springs that we use. But that's part of the bespoke process, custom build process, as we talk about the springs. So if we do a nice road progressive spring, we can drop the height by 1 inch, which is really not noticeable. Can you tell? This was dropped by 1 inch compared to the other one. Now let's do a side measurement, height. And I'm going to point out that this roof rack is called a front runner roof rack. I'm not saying buy a front runner, I'm just saying it's a front runner, but it's called the slimline rack is what it is. So supposedly the slimline rack is a little shorter, a little closer to the roof. And this truck will go into my garage if it does not have the tent on it, because I do have a rather large tent on top of it with the tent. I haven't tried it, but I don't think it's going to fit. But let's do the side measurement based on the roof, and then we'll do a side measurement with the roof rack. So if you're considering a roof rack, now you can make the determination whether or not it's going to fit. So side measurement, I'm going to pick the highest point of this D110, and let's kind of take a look here. But again, it can be lowered based on the springs. So this one is, not counting the roof rack, we're at about 77 inches in height. Account for the roof rack, and now we're up to 82¼ inches. And let's just measure back here to make sure. Again, 77 inches and 82¼ inches. So the roof rack is 82¼ all the way. And then the truck again is right at 77, let's say 77 to 78 inches. Do a different spring on it, it can be as tall. And I mean, and this tire is a 285/65/16, so meaning that the wheel itself is a 16-inch tall, but whether we did a 16-inch or an 18-inch wheel, it would still be about the same height. Again, it's a 285/65/16, or we could go to an 18-inch wheel and it would be the same height. And I know I repeated that, but you guys are always asking me about tires. What size tires is that, Paul? So there you go. That's what size it is. It's a BF Goodrich KO2, a nice tire. So that's the height with that. But what about with the tent, if you want to do the tent? And this is going to be a really rough estimate on this since I can't really see the top. But to give you an idea, since this tent, the tallest point is right here, and it looks to be about, let's say, around 94, 95 inches tall. So getting that into a garage is a little bit of a consideration. And so I guess you just have to take that into account. If you want to do a tent, can you get it into the garage? Right now, I don't think I can. So as soon as my tent season's over, this comes off, and this will go back into the garage. So now we got the height. Let's take a look at the length. And again, I'm going to be an error of a couple inches, but we're going to try to account for that rear tire on the back. So let's say that we're about right there. And then to bring it back, accounting for the rear tire here, we're 191 inches. So length is 191 inches for a D110. So it's longer than a D90, of course, but just measure your garage and see if it will fit with the spare tire on there. Do you have enough room? So the first thing to keep in mind about garage doors is it's not necessarily your garage door is the same size as mine. So you need to measure your own garage door. So I'm just giving you perspective here. So width of my garage door, (119 inches). So 9 feet and 11 inches basically, right at it, is the width. And then the height, dead center, is 94 inches, so 93 to 94 inches for that section in the center. But then I start to lose size here. We'll go out to about this point here, which comes down to about 91.5 inches. So I encourage you to measure your own garage door and see how it will fit. But it's a pretty good chance that a D90 or a D110 is going to fit, even possibly with a roof rack on either one of them. Account for the roof rack if you want to do a roof rack. If you're doing a D90 with a hardtop, just account another, let's say roughly about 6 inches, and that will get you in. Unless you do a safari roof rack, and that one's going to be about 8 inches tall. So if you have any questions, or if you want additional specifications, for example, like towing capacity or weight, curb weight, just go to the website, go to helderburg.com, and pick out a specific vehicle, pick out a D90, go to the bottom of the page, and you'll see the technical specifications. You'll see towing, and I haven't added horsepower because there's really no way to add horsepower on one of these, but I'll do another video and talk about horsepower and torque and why I really can't add that. But I'll just tell you, watch some of the other videos and see the drivability. That's what you should focus on, drivability, not horsepower, because these vehicles were not built for horsepower, they were built for torque. But get some more answers on helderburg.com.